pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight downside, speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, you know the drill. Once again, we're going to give this another try this evening and see if we can get a Falcon 9 launched with 60 Starlink satellites on board. I say we because it's all the space family who's super interested in seeing a rocket launch. Actually, it's going to be SpaceX who is trying to do a launch here this evening. But let us know if you can hear us and see the rocket out there at the Cape. NASA Spaceflight team is here to do some more live commentary covering this Falcon 9 Starlink launch live from Pad 40. Now, we're not actually at 40. Chris Gebhardt and Thomas Berghardt are out there at the ITL Causeway, about 3 miles away. What is it? 3 miles, 5 kilometers roughly away from the pad right now. And let's check in with them and see if we've got their audio. Chris Gebhardt, are you on right now?
I am indeed. Good evening, Das. How's it going?
Pretty good. Y'all, Chris Gebhardt is assistant managing editor for NASA Spaceflight. He's ChrisG_NSF on Twitter, and he's rolled all the way down from Daytona to go out to the Cape today and share the launch with us. So, Chris, thanks for rolling out. Hope you were able to dodge all that weather that was coming through earlier.
Well, I hope the Falcon 9 can dodge the weather because Band 1 is through, but we can see Band 2 coming across the peninsula and all the lightning associated with it. So let's hope we can get it off on time here tonight. And it doesn't
hopefully we
interfere.
get a space in the clouds there, space in the storm bands coming through to get this thing launched. And then, like I said, also out there on the causeway is Thomas Berghardt. Thomas, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, and we are into propellant loading operations, so farther than we got last night, which is a good sign. Again, hoping to dodge the weather and get a launch tonight.
All right, so that's Thomas Berghardt. You hear his voice on the live streams all the time. But like we said, we're going to be here doing some live commentary. This is our camera that's rolled out to the Cape. We have a couple different cameras to watch the launch tonight, and that may be coming up in just under 32 minutes. You look in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. We got a countdown clock there going, and that launch time is supposed to be just before 11 o'clock. Is like 10:59 or something? What's the launch time?
It is a wonderfully precise 10:59. Not 11, 10:59.
Not 11, 10:59. All right. So same as we always do here, folks, like we do on the live streams, we provide live commentary. We explain what's going on. And what we're going to do here this evening is answer some of y'all's questions. So if you have a question for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. That will get your question put into some cool software that Michael Baylor, who, by the way, is also in the studio, right, Michael?
Yes, I am, and hopefully the weather in the recovery zone will be acceptable today, but you can see some vapors on Falcon 9 right now, so propellant loading is currently underway at T-minus 31 minutes approximately. We actually do not know. We have not received the instantaneous 2-second launch time today. We know it's within the 59 minutes, but exactly to which second we do not know for once, so that countdown might be slightly off. Once the official SpaceX nets start having callouts, we will adjust it accordingly, but do note that could be a couple of seconds off.
Good deal. So Michael writing a bunch of the software and running things behind the scenes, marshalling the stream this evening, and has a couple tricks up his sleeves with Fleet Cam as well, if I'm not mistaken. But as we go through the live stream here, we're to answer some questions and provide y'all with information like Chris is about to, right, Chris?
Yes, well, I just wanted to mention the other two. Yes, I just wanted to mention the other two members of our team as well. Julia Bergeron is out, not here with us on the causeway, but out going to attempt a streak shot for today. And with us on the causeway, right next to us, is Stephen Mark as well, who will be setting up all of his photography gear. It looks expensive and intimidating, so I'm not going near it.
It looks expensive and intimidating. Nice.
Much like rockets.
All right.
And SpaceX just tweeted that Falcon 9 and weather are looking good ahead of tonight's launch. So SpaceX confirmed that weather is favorable today, which is a good sign because if you were with us yesterday, we went live for about 60 seconds and then the launch was scrubbed due to weather.
Yeah, not going to lie, Michael, when you said, and SpaceX has tweeted, I was like, nope. like, I got really self-defeatist there for a second. Thought we were going home.
Look, it would make sense right after we go live for SpaceX to tweet something, but we're still good for now, Chris. So Chris or Thomas, whichever one of y'all has this queued up, let us know what is going on. What are we launching? What type of rocket is this, et cetera, et cetera? What do we expect from the launch tonight?
Sure. So this is one of those launches that's almost getting boring, but not quite boring because it's still a rocket launch. This is another batch of 60 Starlink internet satellites for SpaceX's satellite constellation. This particular mission is launching on a Falcon 9 from Pad 40 on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This is the version 1.0 L19 mission. You may have noticed that L17 mission still hasn't launched. That rocket's still over at Pad 39A and could go as early as Wednesday morning. But that particular rocket has a couple technical issues. So while they're waiting for that, other missions that have already gotten their mission designations are launching first. But there's another 60 satellites going to the northeast from Cape Canaveral. After initial ascent, the stage will make another drone ship landing attempt. Tonight we'll be attempting to land on Of Course I Still Love You. There are also 2 fairing recovery vessels downrange for fairing recovery attempts. And tonight's is also the 2-burn upper stage flight profile. So there'll be a coast phase before a brief second burn of the upper stage prior to satellite deployment. But those are kind of all the variables in the otherwise pretty standard Starlink launch flight profile for today. Chris, remind me, what booster are we looking at today? How many flights has it flown? Remind me of that.
Yes, so this booster will attempt to make its landing on the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship, which is positioned about 630 kilometers northeast of the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Air Force Station as off the coast of the Carolinas, which is why we're worried about some weather up there. But in particular, this is Falcon 9 booster number 1059 that will be making its 6th flight. It previously launched the CRS-19 mission in December 2019. And then the CRS-20 mission a few months later. It then launched a Starlink rideshare, the SAOCOM 1B flight, which was the first to do the polar orbit corridor out of Florida in 60 years. And most recently, it launched the NROL 108 mission on the 19th of December 2020. And here it is on the pad less than 2 months later. Not the fleet leader. The fleet leader's turnaround is in the 30s. I believe it's 37 or 36 or something around there, Thomas, or something like that. It's much lower than where we are today. They've turned them around in about a month, just a little over a month at this point. So, but that is the booster that we are working with today, as well as the 2 payload fairings, which will also come down into the Atlantic for recovery and potential reuse. But that is a snapshot of the Falcon 9. The second stage, as always, is brand new and will make its one and only triumphant hurrah into orbit tonight with those Starlink satellites. But yeah, so far so good for the 6th flight of booster 1059.
It's coming. It's going to do its one and only hurrah into orbit. Is that what you said?
Yes, that is what I said.
Because that is the part of the Falcon 9 that's not reused, right? The second stage. That's what you mean. It's only going to fly one time.
Correct.
It looks like
is the only part of the Falcon 9 that is not reused. So that is important. Yes.
It looks like on Fleet Cam, we've turned that a little bit to that's going to be sort of the northwest, and you can see that lightning off in the distance.
You can indeed. Let me switch over on my weather app to get a good sense of how far away this is. So this is the thing with night, and when you've got really flat terrain, things can look a lot closer than they actually are.
Yep.
In real life. So basically, right now, that weather complex that you are seeing at its closest point is 120 kilometers northwest of the launch site. So absolutely not a concern for liftoff at 10:59.
That's all the way out there, like at St. Augustine, Palm Coast, up the coast. That's like over Ocala, which is almost on the other side of Florida.
Exactly, yeah. These frontal systems sort of drape long ways across the peninsula. So, yeah, like it's not even raining back where Thomas and I live yet. It hasn't even gotten there. Yeah.
So even though we can see some flashes off in the distance, hopefully that does not affect the launch weather here at the Cape. And then I wonder, are they going to be sort of hopping over this weather system, like flying over it? Or are they shooting a gap in between? Because the drone ships are to the northeast tonight, right?
Yes, they are. So
This night.
the drone, yes, the drone ships are where they are where they normally are for Starlink, and I like that we can actually say that, Goss, where they normally are for Starlink. It's nice not to have to learn a new fact, but just repeat a fact many, many times.
There you go.
Yes, but yes, basically we're only concerned with whether within a 10 nautical mile ish range around the launch site, so 16, 17 kilometers ish. Other than that, because the rockets go up, they climb vertically first before they pitch more horizontal for their acceleration into orbit.
Right.
So by the time they really start that pitch program and start gaining more downrange velocity than vertical velocity, you're past all these storm complexes. So, I mean, this would be the equivalent of like a storm complex getting up to about 17, 18 kilometers in altitude, but the Falcon 9 is at 70 by the time it goes over it. So not a problem. To go over them, you just can't go through them on your initial climb out of the Cape.
Right, makes sense. And so let me grab some super chats really quickly here, y'all. A couple minutes marinating in the queue. Rough Riders, appreciate you there. $4.99 saying, do we have a status on the Falcon Heavy? USF, the Space Force 44 mission moving to July now. Do we know anything about static heavy status on Falcon Heavy?
That's been one that's been moving. That's been moving on its own accord, based on payload readiness from the customer, and not just this one for the Falcon Heavy. It wouldn't surprise me if it's moved. Thomas, I'm going to kick it to you. I have not personally seen yet if it's moved yet.
So there are up to 3 Falcon Heavy missions this year, but as few, well, I guess as few as 0 technically. I think we're expecting at least 1 for sure. There are 2 national security missions. Both they have USSF designations. The first one is USSF, which I believe is still on track to launch middle of this year or during the summer sometime. There was a second DoD mission as well as a commercial satellite for Viasat, which are both going on Falcon Heavy, but I believe both of those launches are less certain on their schedule, but they are still both technically no earlier than this year. So you could have up to 3, but we're expecting at least.
We don't seem to have good connection with you right now, Thomas. You're kind of cutting in and out of it.
So yeah, basically what Thomas was saying there is that the USSF 44, is that the first one, Thomas? Yes, USSF 44 is the one in midsummer. That is the one that we have the most concrete information on. The other USSF mission for the U.S. Space Force, as well as the Viasat 3 mission, both Falcon Heavies, technically later in the year right now, but those are more nebulous in terms of will they remain this year or will they push into 2022.
Yeah.
Good
deal. But let me grab some more super chats here real quick. Amelie's Cosmic Blunder, thank you so much for the 5 Canadian. Appreciate you there. It looks like you do some meteorite designs. I got a meteorite wedding ring on, actually. We have matching meteorite rings. But thank you so much for the 5 Canadian. Lance Buckley is a new member and an upgrade, it looks like. Thank you, Lance, for the support there. And then Red Holly says, do you guys think we'll one day see crewed launches on dogleg trajectories from the Cape? That's an interesting question. Not a Starlink question, and we're at T-20, so watch the screen. Expecting event, but dogleg crew launches, Chris.
Thomas is going to attempt to answer that one.
Yeah, really quick. First of all, am I not a robot anymore?
It's going to come and go.
Okay. Well, I would try my best here, but traditionally, the answer would be no, because most of these crew launches are going to, say, the International Space Station, which does not need a dogleg maneuver. However, there have been some recent developments with the Inspiration 4 mission, which is a private Crew Dragon mission not going to the ISS. It's going to just free fly for a couple days. And that mission, there are now discussions by Jared Isaacman, the entrepreneur behind the mission, is suggesting that they might do a polar orbiting mission to give a very unique perspective on that crewed mission. So it is possible that we actually could see that, because Falcon 9 can launch a Crew Dragon on that polar launch corridor trajectory from 39A. So potentially they could do that. That would be a very rare and one-off circumstance, but it is possible and it could even happen.
And there is that. Yep, go Chris. We're both going to say the same thing.
We were. I was going to say, as we watched that T-20 minute vent, that is gaseous oxygen that is being vented away from the Falcon 9. This is oxygen that has been pumped into the first stage of the vehicle that has boiled off from its super dense, super cold status, and they are venting those tanks and venting it out, helping to maintain pressure, but also clear room in the vehicle for additional propellant that's needed. And what I was going to add to Thomas's thing is, there's nothing that technically precludes it. The only reason it hasn't been done yet is none of the Mercury or Gemini missions needed a polar trajectory. That's not what we were trying to do in those programs. Apollo is all about getting to the moon. You do not launch into a polar trajectory to get to the moon. And the shuttle literally could not do that because of the abort landing locations on the other side of the Atlantic that were needed for its ascent profile. So they were very constrained in that way, but nothing technically from a crew safety perspective constrains Falcon 9 from doing it. So Falcon 9 has a new thing it can do for us in the human spaceflight arena out of here. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. I had that same thought too, Thomas. I was wondering if Inspiration 4 would end up going polar out of here. So yeah, will be interesting to see.
Good deal. Let me grab a couple more super chats real quick. Robert Berghart, that name is familiar looking, says thanks for the great coverage as always, guys. Here's some gas money for Chris and Thomas after last night's scrub. # Thomas Fan Club.
Thanks, Dad.
Is that like Dad actual Thomas?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Aw, jeez. We appreciate you, Robert, both for the $10 and providing us with a fantastic live stream host and reporter and camera operator and everything else Thomas does. We appreciate you. Jalen Duncan, thank you as well. We've got Steam Rarler saying, I've got 3 megabit per second internet. Go, Internet Rocket, go. And Andrew Paris said, NSF team, thanks again for all your hard work. Go Space Hero. And then JR with $1. Thank you, JR. We appreciate you. So I can pull a couple questions here out of the regular chat, Chris and Thomas. And let me grab this one. This is a good one to start with. And it's from, actually, NASASpaceflight flan number 44. That's the username. And it says, if they're dealing with bad recovery weather, can't they land the booster back at LZ1? So why can't it just come back?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It comes down to the mass of the payload and the orbit you are trying to put it into. So this is more easily seen if we don't take Starlink, but if we take the cargo dragons. So Cargo Dragon, remember, in its original configuration that flew from 2010, 2012 up until 2020, it was light enough that those first stages could throw it up really high into the atmosphere and reserve enough propellant to flip around and come back, and the second stage could do the rest of the injection into a 200-kilometer orbit. But when the mass of Dragon increased from that first version up to the current version that we have now that carries either crew or cargo, the capsule was heavier. The amount that it could carry was heavier, and that added mass negated the ability to reserve enough propellant in the first stage of the Falcon 9 to fly it back to LZ1. And Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but Starlink still outweighs Dragon in its 2 configurations in terms of mass, because these are roughly 16 metric tons, not 16 kilograms, 16 metric tons of Starlink satellites versus about 10 to 12 metric tons for Dragon. And if they can't come back with Dragon, they can't come back with Starlink because of the mass properties.
Correct. They're also going to slightly different orbits, but they're both going to low Earth orbits, so the differences are somewhat negligible. Correct. The Starlink missions are actually at the very limit of what a Falcon 9 can do while still landing on a drone ship. It is not limited by the space in the payload fairing. In fact, if you look at some of the photos, you'll notice it's pretty full, but there's actually still some room in the payload fairing that if they wanted more satellites on board, they could. And that's demonstrated by the fact that sometimes they'll take off 1 or 2 Starlink satellites off the top and put rideshare payloads on top that are actually bigger than Starlink satellites. So they can expand the size of the spacecraft. They're limited by payload mass. And so this 60 satellites is a function of what can a Falcon 9 get to a Starlink orbit while still landing on the drone ship. So yeah, these Starlink missions are the heaviest that SpaceX has launched, and they are heavier than Crew and Cargo Dragon mission.
Now, what will be interesting as Starlink continues its deployment and SpaceX tries to figure out exactly what orbits they want to go into, that limiting mass for Starlink would be lower if you wanted a higher inclination, because it takes more energy to get you into those higher inclinations from Florida, because Florida is nicely positioned for equatorial launches. You can get most of the Earth's rotation in your favor if you go due east out of Florida. But as soon as you start going northeast and as soon as you start going south into those polar orbits, it really starts to constrain the total amount of mass you can take, because it's a performance hit to the vehicle, because it doesn't have that extra help of Earth's rotation. It's having to counter Earth's rotation to get into higher inclination orbits. So if the orbital inclination starts to change on Starlink missions, we might see the total number of Starlinks they're able to take up change as well.
All right. Well, that's I'm juggling an issue here real quick while I'm also getting you another question. So,
well, if you need to juggle that, I can talk really quick about something else that is
We
here
got
that
the
is
issue
not a
fixed.
Falcon
We're good.
9.
yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's worth mentioning, too. We can't turn the camera to show you because that's against the rules, but right off to the left-hand side of your screen is the vertical integration facility for the Atlas and United Launch Alliance, which is currently hosting its first Vulcan rocket inside of it. So that Vulcan Pathfinder that arrived on Saturday, they have now stacked it on top of the Vulcan mobile launch platform inside the vertical integration facility. We'll be doing some checkouts with it in there, and then they'll haul it out to the pad for a wet dress rehearsal here momentarily. But that is here as well, although you cannot see it today, but that's here. So lots of stuff is happening at the Cape.
Good deal. And just to explain really, Chris, you said that's against the rules. What happens when you're there as media is you're allowed to film a certain event. So you're there for the
Correct.
SpaceX launch. You're allowed to film the SpaceX launch. You can't go there and be like, oh, let's look over here and look over here. You're there as media just to see this one launch. And that's why we can't, oh, go look over here. It's not there as a sightseeing tour. It's there to cover this specific event on base, right?
That is
Yeah, and
correct,
that's a
yes.
function of, keep in mind, we are literally on an Air Force installation, or Space Force installation, excuse me. But, so yeah, there are things around here that cannot be filmed and photographed. It's more leeway when we're at the press site, the NASA press site over at Kennedy Space Center, because then we're surrounded by a bunch of civilian stuff, and if you can see it from the press site, it's usually no problems. But this mission is from Pad 40, so we are on the southern side of Cape Canaveral on the Space Force station, where, yeah, we're just going to be focusing on Falcon 9 tonight.
Yeah.
So many rules.
Yep. All good. Let's see here. Here's one from Joe Pipel asking, is there also another Starlink launch later this week?
Not just later this week, 36-ish hours away or something like that. Actually, less than that. Yeah, because if they delay if this one were to delay 24 hours into tomorrow, they would be 2.5 hours apart from one another. So they are separated by 26 hours right now. 26.5 hours is the next one. Yes, from 39A, theoretically.
Gotcha. So there is another one coming up with more Starlink satellites, hopefully, shortly.
Yes, indeed.
Let's see here. And we're coming up on about 11 minutes before the launch here. Everything seems to be progressing well. We'll continue to listen in on SpaceX and see what the deal is. How many more Falcon 9 Starlink launches would you reckon there will be before the switch to launching with Starship?
How many more? Sorry, I asked Thomas another question. How many Starlinks and something with Starship? Please repeat to us.
So we've heard Elon say that they want to launch Starlink satellites with Starship because they can launch a lot more at a time, right? So how many more Starlink launches do you think they'll do on Falcon 9s before they just switch to Starship?
350 to 400. Oh. How many more on Falcon 9?
Yes.
Oh, that's impossible to answer right now. In all honesty, I love the spirit of the question.
Yep.
But Starship is nowhere near far enough along in development to really honestly and truthfully answer questions about when it's going to be operational or things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're very much guessing at orbital launch this year, just based on their cadence and what they want to do. So, yeah, I understand the spirit of the question. We know Starship would theoretically be able to haul between 350 and 400 Starlinks at the same time if they maxed it out at 100 metric tons, which is the payload capability of the Starship. So that's really all we can answer right now. I don't know if you have anything to add, Thomas.
It's just really quick, it'll be worth noting that once Starship is even online, those are going to be payloads on very early flights of a vehicle that has not yet been proven, so it's possible that some of them will fail as they get to sort of developing a brand new vehicle. So there's a lot of risk on those flights, so I think you will actually be seeing Falcon 9s with Starlinks on board until the constellation is complete, alongside Starship as it comes online as well. So it's going to be a while before you see no more Starlinks on Falcon 9.
And to be fair, it's roughly 1,500 Starlinks for the initial orbital shell of the constellation. And oh my gosh, with tonight, I believe we're at 1,145 or something like that, launched, not operational. Danny, the article that we have on site, written by Danny Lenz, details every single orbital plane and how many are in each other. Danny did a wonderful job. It's a great article. I really encourage you to go look at it. He's got graphs that move, and everything really showing how they spread out. But yeah, it'll be, this one will bring the total number of Starlinks launched in both the operational and the round of 60 test satellites to 1,145 out of 1,500. So you can see Falcon 9's doing a really good job of getting the constellation up there. Yeah.
We see they're starting to change the latitudes, like roll out Starlink to even more latitudes. We see more and more people saying that they've got a shipment notice that their Starlink is coming in. So as they add satellites to the constellation, they can increase their coverage, and they're getting them up there. Falcon 9 is doing the work right now. So let me grab a couple super chats real quick again. Alex Moon hopping in saying, I'm out here on the A1A hoping to catch my first IRL launch. Thanks for the commentary and inspiration. Go Falcon. So
well,
Alex,
it's a great night if you've got it. There's a thunderstorm to the west and clear skies to the northeast.
Good deal. We appreciate you there, Alex. Derek Johnson hopping in. This is a Raptor question. We're T-minus 8 minutes, so I don't know about Raptor questions right now. The best time to ask that would be during a Starship stream, but we appreciate you there asking about Raptor reliability problems and stuff. But
I can answer that really quick.
Like one sentence.
Raptor is still a developmental engine. Do not look into its issues as anything that will go into the flight reliability of them. Merlin's had trouble. The Space Shuttle main engines had trouble. Heck, the Space Shuttle main engines were still exploding like a year before Columbia launched on its first flight.
Right.
Don't take what developmental engines do as an indicator of their flight-worthy counterparts' reliability.
There you go. All right. Axie, thank you so much, says, let's light this candle, go, Internet Rocket, go. And then Hagen says, hey guys, thanks for all you do for the spaceflight community. Is the weather optimal to see the entry burn from the Cape tonight?
I do not believe so, because the line of storms does extend out into the Atlantic north of us.
Right.
And you can only see stars down to about 30 degrees above the horizon or so. So I wouldn't say no, but never say never.
Gotcha. So you'll be able to see the launch here, of course, but in terms of the reentry burn way downrange, that may be harder to see because clouds down there may block your view. But there's one way to find out. Be on the lookout during the launch and see if you can see it. It doesn't take too long for it to get to that reentry burn after it takes off from the Cape. Let's see here. Dougal, we appreciate you saying thanks as always for providing the Gooderistis. I guess that's how you say that. Gooderistis views. We appreciate you, Dougal. Thank you so much. I'm going to grab a couple more, and then we'll put a hold on them when we get up to T-minus 5 minutes. Shag, thank you so much. Thanks for the great live feed and commentary. Watching live from the Porch and Cocoa. Good deal. Hope we get to see a launch here tonight, Shag. Thank you so much for the support. Couple more Starship questions. Y'all, I'm gonna skip the Starship questions here. Austin Ingalls says, total ice here in Tennessee. Hope y'all are warm. So thank you, Austin, for that. Total ice in Tennessee. It's nice down there, isn't it, y'all?
I almost don't want to tell you what it is down here. While the rest of you are experiencing an Arctic scape of some kind, I don't choose the adjective that goes in front of that. No, Florida has been the exact opposite. It's been in the high 80s here, so much so that like afternoon thunderstorms, summertime thunderstorms have been firing off with all of the energy and moisture
Stage 1 fuel
around the
load is
peninsula.
complete.
It's been weird looking at the rest of the country living in Florida.
And that was a call on the net. I think y'all should have heard.
Yes.
Stage 1 fuel load was complete on the call on the SpaceX net there. Did y'all hear that, Chris?
Yes, we did. Indeed.
Yep, we got it.
And that is a good indication. So that is RP1 fueling that has wrapped up on the core stage. Woo! Woo! Okay, let me reorient to what rocket we're talking about here. That means RP1 kerosene load has wrapped up on the first stage of the Falcon 9. So what is happening right now is all those RP1 propellant lines to the vehicle are being inerted and purged with gaseous nitrogen so that there is no accidental ignition of the ground propellant system at ignition when the T0 umbilicals release from the vehicle.
All right. And that brings us down to 4.5 minutes before launch. So I know we're using the new camera out there, Chris. What do we want to do? Do y'all have some things we need to change? Are y'all ready to set that like within a minute of launch? Or
I literally have one switch to flip, and I can do it at T-minus 30 seconds.
all right. Well, let's keep
Yeah,
in
it
the
looks like we have
pressure for strong back retract.
All right, and that's a good call out. Like normal, Falcon 9 will partially pressurize prior to the strong back pulling back to its pre-liftoff position of 88.5 degrees instead of 90 degrees.
All right. So that was another good call out off the SpaceX countdown net there, right?
Yes, indeed.
Strong back
Okay.
retract has started.
And Chris, remember that you will have to mute the NSF Cloud account, so you do not hear yourself talking when you commentate the launch.
Yes, thank you. That is a good point.
Okay. So again, y'all, this is a Falcon 9 rocket. This is live from Cape Canaveral. The folks with NSF out there today, Thomas and Chris and Stephen, are on the ITL Causeway. They're about 3 miles, 5 kilometers away from the rocket right now, and we are going to be seeing this thing launch in hopefully just about 3 minutes. So everything you see on the screen right now is normal. All the vapors coming off the rocket. It's filled with super cold fuel and oxygen, and that's causing some of the Florida humidity that either comes down in a thunderstorm on top of you or freezes to the side of your rocket, specifically at Cape Canaveral. That is all normal, and we should be... I think we'll be able to notice just a little bit that strong back retracting. You can see some venting from the strong back itself. The strong back is actually the part of the transporter, I guess. Not really the transporter. It's the part that helps the rocket stand up. Is
No,
it transporter?
Yeah, transporter erector is its name, actually.
Well,
Yes.
there you go.
And Chris, maybe let's have you adjust the camera settings, since we've never done this with a new camera before. Give ourselves some margin.
All right.
I mean, we've practiced, to be clear, everyone. We have practiced, but this is the first time doing it for the actual launch.
Yeah.
We have a new fancy camera. We're going to do our best with the settings, but this is our first time using it, so keep that in mind.
Yes,
One could say this is ground support equipment testing.
Stage
Yes,
1 lock
but a
load
new
complete.
upgraded camera from the support of viewers like you. So thank you, because this is part of how we have invested that money and everything into new equipment for better views and better reliability. So, but it's our first go. So
Yeah, it's our first go.
don't hold it against us.
It's going to be operator error tonight. Like, the camera's really nice, but we have to learn how to use it, and you don't get a lot of opportunity to practice pointing the camera at rocket launches. You have to wait until a rocket launches.
And Chris, I'd maybe go slightly darker just to err on the side of caution, since this is our first launch. Underexposing it is preferable to overexposing it.
Is this
We're making that
100
change
right now?
It's 1/30.
Yeah, let's go to 1/100.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
See what we get. And y'all will see it get darker as we change. We'll get better at this where we can do it in real time, but we're learning right
Stage 2
now.
locks load complete.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, that looks good. We want it to be pretty dark. Now it's going back brighter.
Alrighty, so that is our... No, it still says 1/100 on our screen. I think the light is just changing at the pad with the 2-minute vent there.
So let's see what we get. Normally we would do this right when the launch was happening, but since we're giving it our first go here,
Ground gas close out
we've-
started.
Yeah. And Chris, internal audio, please. So we'll get Chris's audio from his actual camera. I'm turning that up now, and we should have Chris's audio. So Chris, you want to say something? We'll make sure that we can hear you.
All right, and this is me coming to you through the camera. Not from the
That
other
is
room,
working.
just through the
Good
camera.
to go.
Yep. And
Alrighty, so here we are, just about under a minute now until the scheduled liftoff of the Falcon 9 here. And here we go. We have engine ignition and we have a liftoff of the 19th Starlink mission from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida. Go, Internet Rocket, go! Starlink satellite, 60 payloads inside that payload fairing. Falcon 9 pitching over much more horizontally now. You need much more horizontal acceleration than you do vertical acceleration, and Falcon 9 is now in that leg of its first stage ascent. You can see the color change on the first stage there as it has ascended out of most, not all, but a lot of the dense lower atmosphere. So you can see that plume expanding as Falcon 9 continues to head downrange in what is so far a picture-perfect liftoff here right on time at 22:59 Eastern Time, 03:59 UTC. You can really see that plume expansion now of those 9 Merlin engines on that first stage. Absolutely gorgeous. A crystal clear sky for Falcon 9's ascent.
Look at that. That looks good. Yo, what's happening is the exhaust actually spreads out because there's less atmosphere.
Sequence should be coming up here momentarily. There we go. We have stage shutdown. We have stage separation. Standing by for Merlin vac ignition. And there it is, Merlin vac ignition. We are on to the second stage now of flight. Next major milestone will be the separation of the payload fairings. At this point, the second stage is continuing to take the 60 Starlink satellites into orbit. The first stage is now on its parabolic trajectory, headed for the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, 630 kilometers northeast of the Cape, and it will reach that location just about 8 minutes after liftoff.
And then let's go back on Discord audio, guys.
Yep.
And I am back with you on Discord audio. Still tracking that second stage.
Yeah, you can still see it barely on your camera, Chris.
Yep.
That is not a star for sure. That is the Falcon.
That's not a star.
I swear it's not a star. I even locked the camera when I had to take my hands off it.
Yeah, that tiny dot is the rocket.
I say the humidity really carried the sound tonight, and also we had a gorgeous view. You could actually see the sound waves through the haze as it ascended. It was gorgeous.
I'll have to go back and watch that after the fact.
Chris, you're going to need to go back and listen to that.
Well, yeah. Well, I certainly felt that. I mean, man, like, impossible not to.
Yo, we have a new microphone that was on the camera there this evening as well. A much nicer microphone than we've used in the past. And I don't know if y'all noticed a different tonight, but we may have to dial that in a little bit.
No. They should experience exactly what we experienced. Deafening, lung-rattling roars.
That was amazing. The sound was amazing there for a minute.
And still got it right there in the middle of the screen. Yeah, I hope that microphone did it justice, because the sound is one of those things that is so hard to describe, and it's the very visceral part of being here, feeling something leave the planet. But that is still the second stage, just firing away there. Look at that.
Can we get a time check where we are relative to that entry burn? Because we want to look out for that just in case we can catch a peak.
Yeah, we're plus 5 minutes right now, and we're probably 3 minutes away from entry burn, if I had to guess, right around 8 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's between
Oh, no,
7 and 8, depending on.
Entry burn is earlier. Entry burn is like 2 minutes before landing. So we're closer to it.
Gotcha.
Do you still see the rocket on your camera, Chris?
I do, yes.
Yeah, we can see it here.
I'm trying to...
It's
So-
just right of center screen.
The exposure's dumped. If you brought the exposure back up,
Yeah.
you'd see it.
You can
Yeah.
adjust exposure on the fly without losing it. We could try that. But...
Good luck.
Did I do it? I don't know if that's a star or not. It's moving, so no.
Stars move, Chris. Stars move.
Yeah, but they don't drop that much.
Again, y'all, what we just saw was a launch of the Falcon 9 carrying 60 Starlink satellites from Cape Canaveral. The NASA spaceflight team here bringing you some live commentary. A couple of us are out there on the causeway, saw the launch in person, and we've also got the SpaceX stream up there. You can see that Merlin vacuum
There it is.
engine.
There it is.
We have entry burn.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
And it
And
just
entry
went
burn
behind a
shutdown.
cloud. Yes.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
it's
You're right. It
below
was
the
a
cloud.
cloud. My bad. Still going. I was going to say, that was really close.
Wow,
really
look at
short. I
that.
didn't see it, but yeah.
Oh, did it go into a cloud there?
It went into.
Oh,
a
there it
cloud,
is. Yeah.
It is going like behind some clouds, so it's hard to tell when it shuts down and when it's just behind something, but I think by now it's probably shut down.
So we were able to catch a little bit of a glimpse of the entry burn. That's hundreds of miles downrange, hundreds of kilometers downrange, and they were able to see bits of it.
Yeah,
That-
we were. That was.
And we have like the very faint glow of what's probably an MVAC, but I think we've lost that at this point as well.
I'm on Doss's
Gotcha.
favorite shot at this point. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I lost it. Yeah.
Good deal. Michael, what were we seeing there on the SpaceX feed before they switched the camera?
Oh, just
Was
some
that-
plasma.
Stage 1 entry burn shut
Oh,
down.
I might have missed it.
Yeah, it looked like plasma or something like
Yeah.
that during the reentry.
Yep.
Because the entry burn had shut down and we were still seeing a glow. So
Oh yeah. Air heating as it comes in, definitely a thing. Yeah.
yeah, that's what that looked like. So
When everyone's favorite rocket, the space shuttle, would get to orbit, on night flights, the cameras on board the external tank, you could see the air ionizing and starting to turn to plasma because the vehicle was still in the atmosphere.
yeah.
as
And it looks
came
like
off the tank.
SpaceX has lost that stage 1 telemetry. It's frozen right now. We're not getting updates. It stopped at 21.3 kilometers in altitude. It's still not quite up to the landing yet, but let's see what we get.
You
There's a
said,
view from
you
a
said
drone
stage
ship.
1 telemetry?
Yeah.
Well,
looks like it
if
may-
it's going through re-entry, you're not going to get telemetry from it. So,
We got...
um,
Oh, their birds landed on the drone ship! I don't...
Well,
Yeah,
think
and
that
there was
landed.
there was a big there was a big bright flash off in the distance.
Yeah.
I don't think that I think that failed.
I mean, it didn't land for sure because it's way past
Yeah.
the time. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Falcon 9 saw the birds on the drone ship and didn't want to kill them.
Waved off because there's seagulls on the drone ship.
So they lost the booster. That's gonna be interesting for their
yeah,
manifest.
so
Yeah.
keep in mind that is always a secondary outcome to these missions. The primary goal is always to get the Starlink satellites to orbit. However, it is becoming increasingly important
Yeah.
to get those boosters back because that booster was supposed to support future missions, and now they're down a booster. And they were honestly, they were a little tight on boosters to begin with. And
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
because they're producing Falcon Heavy boosters for that next mission. So they're not currently growing their Falcon 9 fleet. It'll be interesting to hear what exactly happened, but we've actually had a failed landing for the first time in a while. This ends their longest consecutive streak of landings to date. Back to square one
Pico?
on that end, but it'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
the last time they lost a booster was March of last year, was it not? March or February? It's been about a
Yeah.
year since they
Yeah,
lost
it's
one.
been
Yeah.
it was more successful landings in a row than they had previously achieved.
Nominal
Yes.
insertion orbit. Expected loss of signal at Cape.
This was the 70. This would have been the 74th successful recovery in total, but it would have been the 25th consecutive recovery in a row, which would have extended the record. That count obviously now will reset back to 0. And like Thomas is saying, they have about 4 or 5 boosters in the rotation right now. I think maybe 5. So that's going to be slightly painful for the Starlink manifest, but of course they have more boosters coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, so really
Indeed,
quickly,
and
let me just clarify what we're talking about here, y'all. We saw the view from the drone ship, but we did not see the Falcon 9 land on the drone ship. It sounded like there may have been a call out about the FTS. I heard stage 2 FTS safe, which is good. The Starlink satellites continuing on, but I'm not sure if I heard a call out there about stage 1 FTS activation. Did anybody else hear that?
You most likely would have heard stage 1 AFTS saved, which happens after the entry burn is completed.
Okay, so maybe that's what we heard, and then we saw the light of the landing burn, but we did not see the Falcon 9 on the drone ship.
Yeah, if I had to guess, we ditched into the wall.
Yeah.
Something happened on the entry burn, and it ditched into the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Right.
There should have been the lack of stage 1 telemetry observation from DOS was good. At that point, they should have been getting live telemetry from the recovery boats. So we saw on the previous launch, on the previous Starlink mission this past week, where they had stage 1 telemetry for the first time on a Starlink mission, we saw a good first stage telemetry all the way in, and clearly, for whatever reason, they had lost telemetry, which is probably, I mean, we don't know for sure, but that's presumably related to why they did not land today.
But let's be very clear. The mission is still ongoing. The mission is still a success. The 60 Starlink satellites are in their initial parking orbit. The Falcon 9 second stage and the Falcon 9 system overall did its job of getting the payload into orbit. So now we are in that coast period. There you go. You can see the Merlin engine on the back end of the second stage there, approaching 12 minutes after liftoff. That is ultimately what we care about. Of course, the first time I don't say, pay attention to the second stage, even though landings are cool, is the time we should have actually done that. Because, yes, it's very important to note that the mission is still proceeding as planned. This recovery is not a nix on the mission's overall success.
Yeah, so let's talk about that just a little bit, because this is sort of a thing that's interesting. One of the big things with SpaceX is reusability. And so they're not another company that's just like, we throw every rocket away, right? When SpaceX loses a rocket, that's a rocket they were expecting to reuse. And they don't have a big factory that's just constantly just lines and lines of Falcon 9s being rebuilt, or not rebuilt, built because they're reusing the rockets. So in the past, we've had some interesting discussions about what's really super important here. Like, what costs more, the booster or the stack of Starlink satellites? And it is the booster that costs more than the stack of Starlink satellites, right? Yeah. So it's an interesting turn of mission success when you need to get that booster back so that you can fly other customer payloads, you can fly more Starlinks. It would almost, this is a super controversial thing for me to say, but it would almost be better to lose the Starlinks than it would be to lose the booster. How do y'all react to that, Chris?
I agree with that. I think that's correct.
Yeah, Chris, Thomas, like it's one of those things that I say
an absolute no to that, and the reverse to that, because losing a booster on a landing burn after it has successfully completed its mission versus losing Starlink satellites, which means your first stage or second stage either blew up or had a massive engine problem.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of like their other customers, but in terms of like sheer monetary value
for Starlink specifically.
The booster is worth more than 60 Starlink satellites, I think.
Yeah. And the other thing, the booster's mission, I'm going to say this, chat, you can disagree with me, I'm going to say this. The booster's mission is not just these 60 Starlink satellites. The booster's mission is multiple missions, right? And so if the booster is lost here, it doesn't get to do any more missions. So they have to switch in other boosters and stuff like that. I know that's sort of a, geez, DOS, really? Oh, wow, that's an interesting perspective.
I'm gonna respect the going out on a limb with the perspective. I'm not sure I agree with you.
That's fine. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think about that. I see your point. I kind of get it, but well, let me think about it. I'll get an answer by the next Starlink stream. How's that?
All right. Yeah. No, that's again, y'all. That's just one of those things. It's the reusability. Of course, SpaceX, they plan for this when they're reflying these things. They know that on occasion there's going to be an issue. It's not like, oh, geez, we're going to shut down the program for 2 years while we investigate this landing failure. That's not how SpaceX does things, right? So it's a turning of the traditional space on its head when you think about this. Like for somebody else, it may be a big deal if the booster has a problem. But for SpaceX, they know on occasion they may lose one of these boosters on the landing because what they're doing is pretty cool, you know?
Yes. So two things. One, we need to start packing up. We got the signal to wrap up. Two, I'm going to go out on a limb and say let's not expect that one on Wednesday morning to go because there's an investigation that needs to happen now.
There you go.
There's not a commonality between the two of them.
Yeah.
But I think that is going to do it for Thomas and I from the causeway, so we can wrap up and respect our guides and our the people who watch over us out here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks, that is Chris Gebhardt, Thomas Berghart, and then Steve Marr out there. They were on the ITL Causeway doing the live stream and then also taking some pictures. We'll see some pictures on Twitter and stuff like that shortly. Chris, y'all are clear to pack up and get on out of Dodge. Don't forget any cables or anything like that from the new camera. But
perfect. We'll try not to.
All right, so massive thanks to Chris and Thomas and Steve for rolling out to the Causeway this evening to bring us that live coverage. I've still got a couple super chats and stuff like that I can go through, maybe get another question or two, but y'all are clear to pack up out there.
Awesome. Thank you much, Das. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
All right. Let's see here. Again, they are in a coast phase right now. There's going to be another little bit of a puff as they light the second stage engine again. Even though we did not see the Falcon 9 land, the second stage is still healthy. It's on a good trajectory. We heard that call out. The SpaceX, the actual Starlink mission is still going. It's on its way to orbit, even though that booster will not be flying again, most likely, because it's not on the drone ship. It's not like boosters are never early or late. They arrive when they intend to. That does not apply to boosters that are trying to land. They either land exactly when they're supposed to, or they don't come home. So, anyways, let me grab a couple more super chats here really quickly, and maybe a question or two. Here we go. Roger Airgood. Here's one from Roger Airgood saying, watching Starlink in Washington while I wait to move to Florida to start my new job at SpaceX. Nice. Congratulations, Roger. Thanks for the great stream. We appreciate you. I'm going to say we appreciate
Expected
you.
loss of signal, Newfoundland.
Too. So thank you so much for the support there, Roger, and congratulations. We've got Patrick. Patrick's thinking in saying, congrats on making it longer than last night before they scrubbed. Thanks for the great stream. Actually, they
Acquisition of
tonight,
signal,
Patrick.
Goonhilly.
We're good to go. And Michael, are we still piping through the acquisition of signal there? Or is that me listening locally?
That was it coming through, and you heard 2 callouts as they switched ground stations.
Okay, good. So we still have the SpaceX audio there in the background, y'all. They're just saying they're getting a signal from this spot on the ground. They're losing a signal from this spot on the ground is those callouts that I'm sort of talking over. Sorry about that. CAMP Railroad says, hello, flying tank nerds. We appreciate you, CAMP. Good to see you back. Musical Wolves says, would they try to recover the booster from the water? I'm going to say we've seen a couple different boosters end up in the drink, and it depends on the state. If it was a soft landing, they may try to recover it, or they may sink it. So if it landed soft enough that it didn't end up in 18 million little Falcon 9 pieces, it's actually like a Falcon 9,999. It's a lot of pieces. We've seen them go out there and sink a booster if they didn't want to bring it back in, and we've seen them tow a booster back in. The booster that they towed back in landed really close to shore, and so this one being out there in the middle of the Atlantic, even if it was intact, I don't know that they would be towing it all the way back in. Also, we don't know the nature of the failure. We know that it did not go to the drone ship. We did see the light from the engine sort of getting the seagulls on the drone ship's attention, but we don't know if it landed soft or if it landed hard in the ocean. So if it just came plowing in, they probably are not going to be trying to strain the ocean with like a spaghetti strainer getting the Falcon 9 pieces back. So we appreciate you there. Good question. Jerry Berry says exactly 1 year ago they lost a booster too. Was it exactly 1 year? It was about a year ago, right?
Yeah, it was March of last year was the last landing failure, if I remember off the top of my head.
A little bit less than a year ago. So Jerry Berry, thank you so much for the euros. Mosh Pit God, nice, says, Rip 1059, you did good. So Mosh Pit, appreciate the $10 there. Thank you so
March
much.
18th.
March 18th was the last one. So about 9 months, a little bit more than 9 months. Or sorry, wow, 11 months, not 9 months.
Yep.
Jeez. Okay, Mosh Pit, appreciate you there. Couple other ones that are questions that aren't really related here. This one is about Starship again, asking how does the belly flop affect the startup of the Raptor engines on Starship? The best place to ask that would be during a Starship stream. I mean, we know that they have the header tanks. We know that they're trying to flip Starship around. We've talked about trying to use Merlin engines from Falcon on a Starship before. That's not the plan. They need to have the more powerful engines. So ECD or EGC, that's probably something we'd talk a little bit more in depth about during a Starship stream. But it is something that SpaceX has planned for. We've seen the Raptors relight after or during the belly flip. They actually have to relight to do the belly flop because they provide some of the thrust vectoring there. But appreciate the support. Cole Hovis with another question, sort of adjacent to that polar orbit discussion we were having. Would the Van Allen radiation belts make a polar orbit dangerous for a human crewed spacecraft? So, Michael, that's actually something I don't know off the top of my head. Is there any difference going over the poles? Like, are there holes in the radiation protection of planet Earth? Is there more radiation around the poles? Because I know the way the magnetic field comes in around the poles, that's why we get the northern lights, the aurora borealis or australis, but I don't actually know how that affects crewed spaceflight.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing I can think of for crewed spaceflight for a polar launch is the ground station, or not the ground stations, but the audio communications, because for a Crew Dragon launch, they normally are using the NASA cheaters constellation to get, telemetry and audio communications throughout the entire flight, because the space station is obviously in the same orbit as Crew Dragon when Crew Dragon is launching to the space station. So for the space station, they use the same communications network that they do for Crew Dragon, but if you're going over the poles, that's going to a place that the space station does not fly, so you'd have to use some sort of different communications system. It might be possible, but I think audio communications coverage would be my #1 concern.
Yeah, we also know about the South Atlantic anomaly, right? Where the space station often has to manage their operations when they have people doing spacewalks or EVAs. Because of the thin part in the Van Allen belts down around the South Atlantic, they can expose astronauts to additional radiation if they're outside when the station's passing through it. So I know that they know about that. They mitigate some space risk for astronauts with that, but I don't know that it would completely stop a Dragon spacecraft from flying over the poles, especially since, not that I've heard, but nobody's doing EVAs outside of a Dragon spacecraft. There's no airlock or anything like that they could go outside the spacecraft. So anyways, a good question. One of those things where it's something for us to talk about, but we might not have all the answers for you. We appreciate you there, Cole. The M Trider. Okay, this is a comment about the lost booster saying, lost booster could lead to a safety discussion with NASA due to reused boosters for cruise missions. Potentially M Trider, but I think the important thing there is the booster did not fail on the lift portion. It only missed its landing. So certainly it's something they would talk about. They would need to say, what was the reason that this booster didn't land? Does the reason that it didn't land have any effect on the launch phase beforehand, especially for crewed missions, et cetera, et cetera? But I don't know. It's going to come down to why it failed, right? What exactly happened? What system went out of whack? Was it just weather? It hit some wind shear or something that made the rocket wave off. We don't know what it is yet. So it would definitely lead to a understanding of what the problem was, and then the understanding could affect the outcome of other missions. You are correct on that. Let's see here. Damianix Studios says, I don't think the light was the landing bird. I think it was the rocket exploding on impact with the water. Flight telemetry showed max speed on impact. I didn't actually see the flight telemetry come back online. I would have to go back and watch that. But did it update right before impact?
It might have. I was not watching that, and I have not watched the launch back. I've seen a couple people saying that the entry burn shutdown did not look normal. I have not gone back and looked at anything myself, but
we noted the glow, right?
Yeah, I have seen some plasma coming off before, but
Yeah.
It was enough that I commented on it when it happened live. But I have not gone back and looked at it. But some amount of glow would have been normal. Perhaps there was more than usual. The telemetry cutting out was definitely not expected. Like you pointed that out right away, and we never saw it come back, except possibly at the end. I know somebody said it came back at the end. I have not gone back and checked myself, but certainly you would have expected them to have telemetry as the landing burn started, because they have the recovery vessels out there to do just that.
Right.
We also saw that bright flash to the right-hand side of the screen, which I have a feeling was the rocket.
Expected loss of signal, Goon Hilly.
And they're still getting their signal callouts there. But again, y'all, we're getting very close to sort of speculation where we don't have official. Well, do we? Let's refresh the Twitter feed.
Come on, Elon.
And, I know, right? Elon's going to tweet about this, but I don't. Your tweet, Michael. The booster saved SpaceX from a seagull barbecue public relations nightmare. Did y'all see there were actually seagulls sitting on the deck of the drone ship? I wonder if they would have gotten out of, could they get out of Dodge if that thing was coming down? I don't know if we've ever seen seagulls on the deck before.
Imagine being the SpaceX, webcast director, having to make that decision. Do I show the landing or not when I see those seagulls on my drone ship?
What a problem to have there. But again, I don't think we've ever seen seagulls sitting there before. I haven't gone back and specifically looked for seagulls on every single thing. But anyways, again, y'all, we are very close to just having to speculate. I don't see an official tweet from SpaceX or anything like that, or Elon. And a lot of times that can happen. I mean, they can do a tweet and then we don't see it for 30 seconds or something, so we'll say something that doesn't match whatever they tweeted. But I'm refreshing as fast as I can over here.
Yeah. And usually when things go wrong, people, for good reason, want answers right away. But
yeah,
you have to remember these are extremely complex systems. So SpaceX themselves may not even know what went wrong yet. They obviously have data that they have looked at, and they may have an idea of what system failed. That still may not tell them why it failed. So it may take some time for Elon and the rest of his team to actually understand why it failed today.
Yeah, absolutely. So one or two more super chats here, and we will be coming to the end of our live stream, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I also have a feeling that quite a few people came over from the SpaceX stream after the SpaceX commentators went offline, because we got a massive bump of traffic there all of a sudden. It confused me for a minute. But if you came over from another stream afterwards, we appreciate you stopping by, finding the channel here. We are NASASpaceflight, and we do live coverage of just about all the different space things that happen. And we actually roll our own cameras to a lot of these things, so we get unique views, different perspectives than the official cameras have sometimes. Also, we often send cameras to places that don't have any live streams. So Boca Chica tests for static fires and cryo testing and all that sort of stuff. Things out at Spaceport America that maybe aren't being live streamed. But if you've just found our channel here, that is what we do here at NASASpaceflight. We're an independent news organization that covers all different sorts of space activity. So let me grab the last few questions here, or super chats. Musical Wolves, did Mary's pipes burst? I hope not. She hasn't said anything about it, so I'm hoping that her house is good to go down there at Boca Chica Village. Musical Wolves. She was actually out tending to a robot. She was playing robot herder earlier because one of the robots apparently did not like the temperatures very much.
Both of them do not like the temperatures.
I know. Well, a piece of ice got frozen in a servo or something on one of them. It was keeping it from turning, but it looks like that melted out today. So anyways, appreciate you thinking about Mary, Musical. Thank you so much for that. And here is Obardo Maldonado with a question about the plasma. Is the plasma we saw after entry burn maybe related to the failure landing? Again, Obardo, or Bardo, it really gets up to the point where it's speculation. We saw some things that didn't exactly look nominal. We saw the telemetry freeze 21 kilometers up. We saw sort of they cut off the camera. They lost the cameras as well, it looked like. We saw that the booster clearly didn't land, but beyond that, it's a lot of speculation. So we'd wait until SpaceX sort of makes an official statement on that, beyond the speculation we've already done. Let's see here. Space Geek says, the last call out was expected LOS Grunheide. Is there a SpaceX tracking station at Giga Berlin? I actually don't know that. Do we know anything about that, Michael? A new tracking station?
Oh, It would not surprise me, but I have not heard anything about that myself.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping tabs on that either yet, Space Geek. So it'd be interesting to go back and listen to all the call-outs and make a list of tracking stations, maybe like a map that has all the tracking stations on it. Not something that we've done yet, but thank you for the support. And then Carlos Moreller, guys, what happened finally with the explosion of Amos 6? That is a good question. Amos 6 was, of course, the SpaceX mission that exploded on the pad during an operation on the pad. It wasn't even the launch. Did they ever launch another Amos 6? I actually never looked. They did.
Launched Amos 7 for free as compensation for the loss of Amos 6.
There you go. Okay, so there's what sort of the circling back on Amos 6 was. They launched the next one for free.
And the actual problem was traced to a problem with the COPVs, which store the helium for pressurizing the tanks. And they fixed that. They have since replaced the COPVs with an updated design, and they have never had a similar problem since, after well over 100 static fires and launches. So that problem is solved as far as we can tell.
Yeah, the biggest issue we've seen with COPVs that SpaceX has had is the COPVs trying to escape starships when they don't land. We see them flying off the top of Starship a lot of the time, but haven't seen any operational missions have any real issues with COPVs there. The COPVs, y'all, are special types of tanks. What is it? Composite overwrap pressure vessel? It's composite or carbon? I always mix that up.
I always mix it up too. I believe it's composite.
Okay, good deal. So they're special tanks that hold different gases, or I guess gases, compressed gases, compressed liquids for the launch. So when we say COPV, we're just talking about a special type of tank on the rocket that holds something that the rocket uses for the launch. But anyways, folks, that is going to bring us to the end of our NASA Spaceflight Live commentary here for the Starlink launch. Again, Booster 1059-6 did not make it home safe. We did not see it on the drone ship. It looks like it impacted the water somewhere nearby. We saw a flash from that. We saw light on the drone ship sort of reflecting, but we don't know, was it an explosion, a hard impact? Was it a soft landing? What did they get done there? We're not quite sure on that yet, but we'll stand by for our buddy Elon to tweet what happened once he's done posting memes. Appreciate you, Elon. Thanks for the information there. But for this evening, we do appreciate everybody showing up for our live stream commentary. In the studio back here, Michael Baylor, thank you so much for running the stream tonight. Appreciate you.
Yep, no problem. Always good to help out and see the launch happen on time. Unfortunately, that booster was lost, but like we've mentioned, there are a lot worse things that can happen on a launch, so that is far from the end of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. SpaceX does have other boosters, they have other missions, and they have a bunch of very smart, talented people who are going to have a look at what happened and be able to explain it and be able to say whether or not they need to change anything. Again, it could have just been bad weather downrange. We know that they were sort of shooting the gap between storms and stuff this evening. So, Michael, thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. Again, out there at the Cape, we had Chris Gebhardt, Thomas Burkhart, and Stephen Marr. And then also back in the studio, I think Julia was with us for a little bit. I don't know. I know she was going out to try and get a streak shot. So be looking on Twitter because we will be retweeting some. Oh, there you are. Did you do a streak shot, Julia?
I'm editing it right now.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah. All right. We'll tweet it out.
Maybe, I'll tweet in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. Good deal.
Okay.
Just,
I've just been sitting here, looking at seagulls at a landing zone, hoping they wouldn't get barbecued. Oh, well.
They're gonna have to.
I'm mourning the loss of a booster. We're good. We're fine.
They're gonna have to put those little bird scarer things out there on the pad, the little buzzers or whistles or scarecrows, owls.
Oh, it's okay.
Y'all, Julia is another member of our NASA Spaceflight team. She is our resident fleet expert. So, Julia, you think they're gonna leave that drone ship out there?
I don't know. I actually I was shooting somewhat in the neighborhood. I was shooting over near the McDonald's on US 1, if anyone's ever watched over here. By the condos there. And somebody said, well, they're just going to pick it up, right, and bring it back. And I went, no. No. This isn't how this works. It lives in the ocean now. They can't just bring it home. So I don't know if they're just gonna stay out there and watch the next one, or honestly, maybe they'll come back because maybe we'll have another Starlink mission. Oh, maybe this month after. Oh, gosh,
Chris was
that's
saying,
a tough call.
like Chris was saying, they're probably going to need to review this data and see if there's a problem that needs to be
Yeah.
fixed before they launch again.
I think the drone ships will come home, and maybe we'll see. Maybe like GoQuest might stay in Moorhead, but
Yeah.
I think the fairing catchers and drone ships will come back.
Yep. All right. So y'all, Julia is Julia_Bergeron. You can see her Twitter handle up there in the upper right-hand corner, and she'll be tweeting a streak shot she took this evening. But again, that is going to be the end of our live stream commentary for NASA Spaceflight this evening on the successful launch, not so successful landing, of the Starlink mission here this evening. I'm John Galloway for NASA Spaceflight. Duno Direct! Look at this. Appreciate you there, Duno Direct. 61 months over on Twitch. Thanks for the support. But we are going to be signing off this evening, and we will see you nerds later. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you for the next live stream, whatever it is. Thanks again for watching.
The chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight outside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.